April fire over the North Sea. April 17, 1943. 26,000 feet above the grey swells of the North Sea, east of Great Yarmouth, England. The cold finds every seam in the aluminum skin of the B-17F flying fortress as it claws toward the continent. Frost feathers across the inside of the gunner's plexiglass turret, and the wind howls through the narrow gaps around the ammunition feeds like a living thing trying to get inside. Oxygen masks hiss. Engines beat a steady 4-count rhythm that vibrates through bone and steel alike. Staff Sergeant William "Red" Mallory braces himself in the top turret, shoulders hunched, gloved hands resting on the twin .50 caliber grips. The guns are loaded heavy today. 500 rounds per gun, linked, oiled, ready. He rolls his neck once, feeling the stiffness. He has been warned again before takeoff. Short bursts only, the squadron gunnery officer had said on the tarmac, clipboard tucked under his arm. You spray like that, you'll be empty halfway through the fight. Mallory had nodded. He always nods. He never argues on the ground. Below him, the formation tightens. Silver bombers stretch to the horizon, staggered boxes shimmering in the weak sun. Somewhere ahead lies Bremen, and between here and there waits the Luftwaffe. Mallory scans the sky, eyes watering from the cold despite the goggles. He does not hunt for a single aircraft. He watches space. Corridors. Angles. The invisible lines an enemy fighter must follow if it wants a clean shot at the bombers' bellies and cockpits. At 10:42 hours, the first dots appear. Tally-ho, bandits, 2 o'clock high, comes the call over intercom. Calm, practiced, but tight underneath. Mallory feels his pulse jump. He tracks the dots as they grow, black crosses resolving on grey wings. Messerschmitt Bf-109s, climbing fast, noses pointed slightly below the formation to gain speed. They are lining up, calculating, just as they have been trained. Mallory does not wait for them to commit. He squeezes both triggers and holds. The guns roar, not in sharp barks, but in a sustained thunder that shakes the turret. Tracers streak outward in long, glowing lines, not aimed at a cockpit, not chasing a wing, but drawn across the sky like a fence being built at impossible speed. Inside the bomber, heads turn. What the hell is he doing? Someone mutters over the intercom. The tracers do not walk toward a single fighter. They sweep across the approach path, then slightly higher, then slightly lower. A moving wall of fire. Not precise. Not economical. Relentless. The lead Messerschmitt flinches first. Its nose dips, then yaws hard left. Another breaks upward, rolling to avoid the streaming arcs of light. A third aborts the run entirely, diving away to regain separation. Mallory keeps firing. The ammo belts rattle and feed. Spent casings pour out into the slipstream. The smell of cordite fills the turret, sharp and metallic, mixing with the oxygen and cold. "Red, you're burning it all," the radio crackles. "Cease fire, cease fire." He does not answer. His eyes are locked on the airspace ahead of the formation, on the space no fighter can now enter without flying through a curtain of death. More German fighters arrive. Focke-Wulf 190s this time, heavier, faster, coming in from different angles. They expect gaps. They expect hesitation. They find none. Mallory shifts the stream, drawing a wide arc that forces the attackers to keep moving, rolling, climbing, diving. No one can settle. No one can hold steady long enough to aim. A burst of cannon fire flashes past the formation, wild and inaccurate. A frustrated shot. Inside one FW-190, Oberleutnant Franz Keller curses as he yanks the stick. The American guns are not chasing him, but they are everywhere. He cannot line up. Every approach vector is flooded with tracers. The bomber does not look like a target. It looks like a trap. Back in the turret, Mallory finally releases the triggers. Smoke curls from the barrels. His arms ache. He checks the counters. More than half his ammunition is gone. The sky is suddenly empty. The formation holds. No bombers drop out. No parachutes blossom. The Luftwaffe fighters regroup at a distance, circling, wary. Silence settles, broken only by engine noise and the hiss of oxygen. "Red," the pilot says carefully over intercom, "you got anything left up there?" Mallory exhales, fogging his mask. "Enough," he says. "They won't come straight again." No one replies. Somewhere in the bomber, someone is shaking their head. Wasting ammunition. Spraying the sky. Breaking every rule taught back in gunnery school. But outside, in the cold thin air, the enemy keeps its distance. And for the first time on this mission, the formation flies through a patch of sky that belongs entirely to them. The doctrine he refused to follow. The Luftwaffe does come back. They always do. But they come back differently now. Minutes stretch as the formation presses inland. The English coast slips behind, replaced by the dark green patchwork of occupied Europe. Flak has not yet begun, but everyone knows it will. For now, the danger still has wings. Staff Sergeant Mallory keeps scanning. His barrels cool just enough to touch through the gloves. He flexes his fingers, feeling the ache in his forearms. Below him, the bomber hums, steady, disciplined. The crew waits. This is the moment the gunnery manuals are written for. Conserve ammunition. Fire only when the enemy commits. Aim for engines. Aim for the cockpit. Short, controlled bursts. Mallory ignores the book again. At 10:57 hours, the fighters reappear, this time in pairs, spreading out, testing angles. They are smarter now. They do not rush. They probe. A pair of Bf-109 slide in from 10 o'clock high, shallow dive, sun behind them. Mallory sees the geometry immediately. This is a textbook intercept. If they hold steady for 2 seconds, they can kill someone. He opens fire early. The tracers carve a broad diagonal across the sky, not at the fighters, but in front of them. The Germans react instinctively, pulling up and away. One snaps into a roll, the other breaks downward. Neither fires a shot. "Jesus, Red," the tail gunner mutters. "You're hurting them." That word hangs in the air. Hurting. Inside the cockpit, the aircraft commander, Captain Thomas Avery, watches the fighters through the windscreen. He has flown 23 missions. He has seen good gunners and bad ones. He has seen heroes and fools. This looks like neither. "Let him work," Avery says finally over intercom. "Just keep calling targets." The radio crackles with reports from other ships. They're not committing. Fighters breaking early. They can't get lined up. Mallory keeps the pressure on. Every time a fighter noses toward the formation, the sky fills with long burning lines. Not a single steady aim point remains. The Luftwaffe pilots are flying constantly, never straight, never level. Fuel burns. Nerves fray. Inside one of the German aircraft, Hauptmann Dieter Weiss slams his palm against the canopy frame. This is wrong. The Americans are supposed to fire late. Supposed to hesitate. Supposed to give you a window. There is no window. Weiss tries a different tactic. He dives hard from above, then pulls up sharply, hoping to pop through the fire for a split-second shot. The moment he does, tracers slash across his climb path. He yanks the stick, missing the bomber by meters, his guns never firing. Back in the B-17, the ball turret gunner laughs, sharp and sudden. It is not joy. It is relief. Mallory fires again, another long burst, then another. He shifts the stream left to right, up and down, building invisible walls that move with the enemy. The ammunition counters tick down mercilessly. At 11:06 hours, the gunnery officer's voice breaks in from another aircraft on the squadron frequency. "Top turret, check your fire. You're nearly dry." Mallory finally answers. "If I stop," he says evenly, "they'll line up." There is a pause. No one contradicts him. The Luftwaffe changes approach again. This time they attack the formation edges, trying to isolate a straggler. Mallory rotates his turret, laying fire across the gap before it can open. The fighters peel away, frustrated, unable to press the advantage. Flak begins to bloom below, black puffs rising like dirty flowers. The bombers fly through it, but the fighters still matter. A single clean pass can cripple a ship already shaken by explosions. Mallory keeps firing through the flak bursts, through the jolts, through the shouted reports of damage from other crews. His world is the sky and the moving lines he draws across it. Finally, inevitably, the guns fall silent. The belts run dry with a hollow metallic clatter. The barrels smoke faintly. The top turret is suddenly quiet, almost painfully so. Mallory reports it. "Top turret out of ammo." No one yells. No one curses. The fighters do not immediately rush in. They hesitate, unsure. The space they want still feels dangerous, even without the fire. For nearly 2 minutes, the formation flies unchallenged. Then, cautiously, a pair of FW-190s test the air again. Other gunners open up. Short bursts. Traditional bursts. The fighters break, but not as early as before. Captain Avery exhales slowly. He understands now. Mallory did not try to shoot planes down. He tried to make the sky uninhabitable. By the time the bombers reach the target, the Luftwaffe attacks have thinned, scattered, disorganized. They have expended fuel, altitude, and confidence. When the bombs finally drop, the formation is battered but intact. On the long flight home, as the adrenaline fades and the cold seeps back in, Avery keys the intercom. "Red," he says, "when we land, the gunnery officer is going to chew you up." Mallory allows himself a thin smile. "He can try," he replies. They didn't. The argument on the ground. The wheels hit the runway at Bassingbourn with a hard, reassuring thump. Tires scream, then settle into a rolling growl. The bomber shudders, exhausted, but whole. Ground crew trucks are already moving, chasing the formation in, eyes scanning for leaks, smoke, damage. Mallory climbs out last, stiff and slow, his legs reluctant to remember gravity. The cold has left his bones, replaced by a dull ache. He pulls off his helmet, steam rising from his hair in the chill English air. He does not make it 10 steps before the gunnery officer intercepts him. First Lieutenant Charles Hensley is young, sharp, and furious. His clipboard is clutched like a weapon. "Staff Sergeant Mallory," Hensley snaps, "you burned through a full load in under 20 minutes." Mallory stands at ease, eyes forward. "Yes, sir." "That ammunition is not decorative," Hensley continues, voice rising. "It is issued to be used with discipline. You ignored direct guidance." Around them, other crews slow, pretending not to listen while listening very closely. Mallory chooses his words carefully. "Sir, every time I fired, they broke off." Hensley scoffs. "You fired constantly. Of course they broke off. You flooded the sky." "Yes, sir," Mallory says. "That was the point." Hensley's face reddens. "The point is to shoot down enemy aircraft, Sergeant." Mallory finally looks at him. "With respect, sir," he says, "the point is to keep them from shooting us." Silence stretches. A few crew chiefs exchange glances. Captain Avery steps in, calm but firm. Lieutenant, Avery says, we took no losses on my ship. No serious damage either. Hensley turns on him. And what happens when he runs dry and they come in for free shots? Avery does not flinch. They didn't. The argument goes nowhere. Hensley writes furiously on his clipboard, already imagining the reprimand. Mallory is dismissed, but the look he receives promises this is not over. In the debriefing room, maps are rolled out, flak patterns traced, fighter approaches discussed. Mallory's name comes up again and again. He kept them dancing. They couldn't settle. I've never seen them break off that early. Still, the doctrine stands. Ammunition conservation is gospel. One mission does not rewrite the book. Over the next weeks, Mallory flies again. And again. Each time, the same pattern repeats. When he fires short bursts, the fighters push closer. When he fires long, sweeping streams, they stay back. He adapts instinctively, adjusting the length and direction of fire based on enemy behavior, not regulations. Word spreads among the gunners. Watch how Red does it. He's not aiming at planes. He's aiming at their nerves. Not everyone approves. Some officers see waste. Others see something uncomfortable. A junior NCO improvising in combat challenges the authority of the manual and the classroom. The Luftwaffe, meanwhile, begins to recognize him. On a mission to Schweinfurt, a German radio intercept later notes an American formation with unusually aggressive defensive fire, heavy and continuous from the upper arcs. Pilots are warned to avoid prolonged approach paths. Mallory does not know this. He only knows the sky keeps emptying when he fills it with light. On October 8, 1943, over Bremen again, his bomber takes a heavy flak hit. The aircraft lurches, shrapnel tearing through the fuselage. Mallory is slammed against the turret ring, breath knocked out of him. He recovers just in time to see fighters lining up. This time, he has already used much of his ammunition. He hesitates. Just for a heartbeat. The fighters press in. Short bursts from other gunners crackle. A cannon shell punches through the left wing of a nearby bomber. Smoke pours out. Parachutes blossom too late. Mallory opens up again, pouring the rest of his belts into the sky. The fighters break, but the damage is done. When they land, the mood is different. Quiet. Grim. Hensley does not confront Mallory this time. He watches the returning aircraft, counting holes, counting empty spots on the flight line. Later that night, in a cold hut lit by a single bulb, Captain Avery finds Mallory cleaning his guns. "You were right," Avery says softly. "About controlling space." Mallory looks up. "I don't like being right," he replies. "I like us coming back." The next morning, Hensley posts a notice. Experimental firing patterns authorized at gunner discretion during heavy fighter contact. It is not an apology. It is not an endorsement. But it is permission. When the enemy learned to fear the sky itself. Permission changes everything. On the next mission, the gunners watch Mallory closely. Not with skepticism now, but with intent. They see when he fires and when he does not. They notice how his long bursts always come early, always before an attack can settle into a straight line. They begin to mirror him. The formation over Munster becomes something new. Tracers overlap, not in chaotic noise, but in deliberate patterns. Streams cross and shift, filling approach corridors with constant motion. The sky around the bombers becomes restless, alive with moving danger. The Luftwaffe reacts with visible confusion. Fighter pilots who have survived dozens of intercepts find themselves unable to execute what once felt automatic. Every approach demands constant correction. Every correction ruins aim. Oberleutnant Keller, back in the cockpit of his Bf-109, recognizes the change immediately. This is not panicked fire. This is controlled denial. He tries to force an opening, rolling inverted and diving under the formation to climb through a perceived gap. The gap vanishes as tracer fire sweeps through it, precise in timing if not in aim. Keller fires a short burst in frustration, his rounds going wide as he breaks away. Inside the bombers, something else changes too. The crews feel protected. Not invincible, but covered. The sense of being hunted eases, replaced by the feeling of holding ground. Gunners talk more. Calls are clearer. Coordination improves. Mallory becomes a reference point. Top turrets painting the lane. Hold fire until red sweeps, then hit the edges. This is not written doctrine. It evolves in real time, shaped by necessity and observation. By November, intelligence reports note a decline in successful head-on and rear-quarter attacks against certain bomber groups. Losses do not disappear, but patterns shift. The enemy avoids sustained approaches, favoring snap attacks and long-range rockets that are less accurate. Mallory's ammunition logs remain ugly. His barrels wear faster. Maintenance crews complain quietly, then stop complaining when they see the aircraft return intact. One afternoon, after a particularly vicious mission to Kiel, Lieutenant Hensley stands beside Mallory at the hardstand. He does not raise his voice. "How do you know when to stop?" Hensley asks. Mallory wipes his hands on a rag. "When they stop trying," he says. The Luftwaffe tries one last adaptation. Over Hanover, a mixed group of fighters attacks from multiple altitudes at once, hoping to overwhelm the defensive fire with sheer complexity. Mallory sees it forming. He does not chase any single group. He sweeps vertically, long arcs that force everyone to keep moving. The attack collapses into disorder. Fighters cross each other's paths, braking to avoid both tracers and collisions. One collides with flak debris, spiraling away. After the mission, intelligence intercepts confirm it. German pilots are complaining. Not about accuracy, but about impossibility. About a sky that no longer allows them to think. The phrase appears in a translated report weeks later. The Americans are making the air untouchable. Mallory never sees the report. He only notices that fewer fighters come close enough to see faces. In December, snow covers the airfield. The war grinds on. Mallory's reputation spreads beyond his squadron. He is asked to brief other crews. He does not speak like an instructor. He speaks like someone explaining weather. "Fighters need time," he says. "Don't give it to them. Not everyone can do it. It requires nerve. It requires trusting the idea that sometimes ammunition is cheaper than aluminum and blood." On Christmas Eve, a mission is scrubbed due to weather. The crews sit in their huts, drinking weak coffee, listening to the wind. Mallory stares at the ceiling, thinking of the sky. Thinking of the lines he draws there. Thinking of the men who will not come back tomorrow. The doctrine is changing, slowly, unofficially, shaped by men like him. The Luftwaffe feels it first. They stop mocking the long bursts. They stop calling them wasteful. They start planning around them. The mission they could not break. February 20, 1944. 28,000 feet over central Germany. The air is thinner than usual, brittle, snapping at exposed skin. Operation Argument is underway, later to be called Big Week, and the sky is crowded with aircraft on a scale few have seen before. Bombers stretch from horizon to horizon, layered and relentless. Fighters swarm to meet them. This is the kind of day the Luftwaffe has been saving itself for. Mallory feels it before he sees it. The tension in the intercom. The clipped voices. The sense that this will not be a probing fight. This will be a collision. The first attacks come hard and coordinated. Waves of Bf-109s and Fw-190s surge in, some firing rockets from distance, others pressing through the explosions to close range. Mallory opens fire immediately. Not in panic. In purpose. The long bursts return, broader now, matched by other gunners who have learned the rhythm. The sky ahead of the formation ignites with intersecting tracer paths, moving, shifting, denying. The fighters do not slow. They cannot afford to. Too much is at stake. But they cannot aim. An FW-190 flashes past the nose of the bomber, firing wildly. A Bf-109 tries to hold steady for half a second longer than he should. The result is instant. Tracers slice across his path. He jerks away, shot ruined. Mallory's barrels glow faintly. His ammo count plummets. He keeps firing anyway. Below, flak bursts add chaos. The bombers punch through it, absorbing punishment, refusing to break formation. Every gap is covered. Every approach lane contested. In one German cockpit, a young pilot fights the urge to fixate. The fire is everywhere. Not aimed, but unavoidable. He realizes he has not been able to line up a proper shot all day. Not once. Inside the American formation, something remarkable happens. The fighters begin to peel away en masse. Not routed. Not destroyed. Simply unable to continue. Fuel is low. Nerves are shot. Attacks have achieved nothing. The bombers reach their targets and drop. Factories burn. Smoke climbs through the winter air. On the way out, escorting P-51 Mustangs appear, diving through the broken Luftwaffe formations like predators arriving late to a wounded herd. Mallory watches them go, his guns finally silent, ammunition gone again. The flight home is long and quiet. Damage is assessed. Losses are counted. They are lower than expected. On the ground, the debrief is different this time. Intelligence officers listen carefully as gunners describe the patterns. The timing. The effect. Someone uses a new phrase. Airspace denial. No one laughs. Weeks later, training notes circulate. Not official doctrine, but suggestions. Early aggressive fire. Forcing maneuver. Breaking aim. Mallory's name is not on the paper. It does not need to be. He flies 3 more missions before rotation. His hearing is damaged. His hands shake slightly when he is tired. But he is alive. As he packs his kit, Captain Avery watches him. "You changed something," Avery says. Mallory shrugs. "The sky did," he replies. "I just listened." The Luftwaffe never regains what it lost that winter. Not just aircraft, but confidence. The belief that there will always be a clean line to the target. That line has been erased. The silence after the tracers. Spring comes slowly to England in 1944. The mud dries. The snow retreats from the edges of the runways. New crews arrive, faces tight with the same anticipation Mallory once carried. He watches them from the side now, rotated off combat, hands still occasionally twitching as if feeling the vibration of guns that are no longer there. The war has moved forward without him, but the sky he helped shape remains changed. On the airfields across eastern England, gunners fire differently now. They do not wait as long. They do not fixate on a single silhouette. They draw lines across space, fill angles, force movement. The manuals catch up eventually, rewritten in careful language that avoids admitting how much was learned in the air rather than the classroom. Across the channel, the Luftwaffe adapts again, but it is adaptation under pressure, under loss. Pilots avoid bomber boxes when they can. They rely more on ground fire. They husband fuel. They hesitate. That hesitation costs them. Years later, in post-war interviews, German pilots struggle to explain it. They do not talk about accuracy or calibers. They talk about a feeling. About never being allowed to settle. About a sky that pushed back. Mallory returns home in the summer. Civilians ask him if he shot down many planes. He tells them no. He tells them that was not his job. At night, he sometimes dreams of the turret. Of the cold. Of the long burning line stretching into darkness. In the dreams, the sky is empty, but dangerous, as if it remembers. History does not record his argument with a gunnery officer. It does not list his ammunition counts. It does not credit him with victories. But the bombers that came back do. The crews that flew through hostile air and found no clean shot waiting for them do. They mocked his long bursts at first. Called them wasteful. Undisciplined. Until no fighter could line up a shot.